So we all know that the active ingredient in coffee, caffeine, has psychoactive effects. Michael Pollan's latest audiobook discusses this. But as we turn to Halloween, I thought I would explore the substance that seems somewhat a cousin of caffeine in terms of its effect on energy level: sugar. Everyone knows from birthday cakes and Halloween celebrations that sugar makes kids hyperactive. But what's remarkable is that the link between sugar and hyperactivity was put to rest 26 years ago. As you'll notice in my coffee videos, I'm generally careful to point out the scientific shortcomings in my method. My sample size is too small, and, most importantly, my trials aren't blinded. The persistence of the myth that sugar makes kids hyperactive is owed to such methodological flaws in human reasoning and help illustrate why we do science the way we do. Studies that sought to isolate the effect of sugar on hyperactivity began in earnest in the 1970s, showing that hyperactive children who had more sugar showed more signs of hyperactivity. But of course, just because we see more firefighters at a large fire does not mean that firefighters are the fire's cause. And this is the fundamental problem with studies that compare one group to another. You might get the causation backwards. There might be something causing both, or there might be no causation at all. For this reason, the gold standard in medical evidence is the double-blinded randomized control trial. In the 12-year time window from 1982 to 1994, there were 23 studies from 16 papers that had conducted such double-blinded RCTs. 15 of these papers were so-called challenge studies. The kids were put on low-sugar diets and then challenged with either sugar or placebo and observed. Some raised concerns that these were short-duration experiments in a laboratory setting. So, in 1994, Wolraich et al. Put out a study alternating the diets of children for 1 week at a time between sugar, saccharin, and aspartame, and scored on achievement tests, monitored for movement, and behavior reported by their parents, teachers, and research assistants. In 1995, Dr. Mark Wolraich et al. Published a meta-analysis carefully agglomerating the results of these 16 papers together and found no evidence that sugar affected children's behavior or mood. When I report these kinds of findings to parents, the response is often, "Oh, sure, maybe a bunch of scientists spending a few hours with kids don't see the link. But talk to a mother who's raised 3 kids from the womb, and she'll tell you it's obvious as day what sugar does to them." In the past, I've been tempted to simply dismiss this as anecdotal evidence and be done with it, but I've learned I can do one better. Yes, sugary foods make kids hyperactive, but it's not the sugar that does it. In a celebrated 1994 paper by Hoover and Millich, the authors recruited through various print media and radio children who were identified by their parents as being sensitive to sugar, kids who turned total cornholio from a Snickers bar. They split the subjects into 2 groups. One group they told would be getting sugar, and the other were told they would be receiving the placebo. Then they had the mothers interact with their kids and report on the kids' hyperactivity level. Predictably, the mothers in the sugar group reported that their kids were much more wired. The twist? Both groups had placebo. The actual level of physical movement was confirmed as being the same with devices attached to the kids' wrists and ankles, but the sugar group of mothers kept a tighter watch on their kids, correcting them more and keeping closer distance. If anything, the mothers became more hyperactive from the beliefs of their kids getting sugar. This is why good science is done with both researchers and subjects blinded to what changes have been made, and why you shouldn't take my little YouTube experiments as gospel. Really, I'm doing anecdotes, not proper science here. As for the link between sugar and excitement, Wolraich notes that sugar tends to show up at accelerating celebrations anyway. Maybe it's more the birthday party than the cake that's actually getting the kids riled up. So thank you to Dr. Mark Wolraich for fact-checking this video. Thanks for watching. Remember to stay coffee snobby.